You are now connected to the Christian whistleblower, Jeffrey Daugherty.
Taking on 2,000 years of indoctrination, 2 hours at a time.
Sink or swim, deep end information.
Asking questions no one else will.
Parabiblical research, spiritual technology, personal empowerment.
Be your own guru.
Master your own ascension.
Guide your own spirit.
And now, showing you how, the Christian whistleblower, Jeffrey Daugherty.
Well, hello and welcome. This is the Christian Whistleblower Show. Welcome to the program tonight. I'm Jeffrey Daugherty, your host for the next 2 hours, and we will be shining the light into the dark corners of orthodoxy, just as Cliff and Veronica said, asking the questions that, quite simply, no one else will, helping you to get past the box that modern-day Christianity, in both its Roman Catholic and Roman Protestant forms, has built around you. I saw a great meme on YouTube, or not on YouTube, I saw it on Facebook, and there's a guy jumping out of a cage saying, I'm free, but he's just in a little bit bigger bird cage. And what a great analogy for the born-again experience. 99.9999999.9% of the time, because we have this perception, and many times, at least part of it is true. You know, people are living lives doing things that are destructive, engaged in habits and practices that are harmful to them and harmful to other people. Or some people are just, they're at the top of the ladder, they're at the top of the hill, but they're all alone and they're trying to figure out why. And when you reach out and you find big-time religion, as I call it, or Protestant religion or Catholic religion, I'm not an expert on Catholicism, so I'm not sure how it works, but in the old Protestant realm, you realize either, I'm broke, busted, and disgusted, or I'm on top of the hill, I'm all alone, and I'm trying to figure out why. You get to the place where you have a born-again experience. You take Jesus into your heart, as it were, and you do feel a cathartic moment. You do feel like, wow, something's changed. You do feel like, wow, something's happened. You do feel like, I'm born again, I'm new, I'm free many times. Usually that lasts anywhere between 17 minutes to about 2 weeks. And then the next time the evangelist comes around, which was me, you got to get saved all over again. But the reality is that when you come from bondage to actions, addictions, substances, people, when you come from even bondage to loneliness or a sense of emptiness, when you come from those places, religion can only fill that hole for so long, and usually not very long. And what you have to do is move right past religion and get in touch with the divine. And that's what we're all about. We're about exposing the shortcomings of religion. We're about clearing out, we're about clear-cutting all of the underbrush of religion so that you can get a good look at the divine and see if the divine is for you or not. If the divine's not for you, well, that's okay. It's just not your time, and we'll shake hands and we'll part as friends. I'll hate to do it, but you know what? There's a lot of people out there that do want help, are ready for help, and know that an experience in the true spirituality of the divine is for them. And quite frankly, that's the people that we're aiming at. That's the people that we're working with and reaching towards. We don't have time to drag people kicking and screaming. So if you want to be in that category, all the best to you. Those of you that are ready to get in, sit down, buckle up, hold on. Let's lock and load. Let's rock and roll, because we're about ready to take off like a rocket ship. Now, on Monday night, many of you were listening as I was on Coast to Coast AM. Spent 2 hours there talking with George Nori, especially or specifically about curious Christmas conundrums. I did write a booklet for that. It's about 52 pages. It's on the website, jeffreydarty.com, christianwhistleblower.com. You can get the paperback, you can get the ebook, so it's affordable for everybody. But it talks about conundrums in the Christmas story. Maybe we'll review a little bit about that tonight, because a lot of people have been asking me a lot of questions. But as we always do, we want to talk about the Unindoctrinate Weekly. Of course, on the website, jeffreydarty.com, christianwhistleblower.com, it's Unindoctrinate Daily. So here we go, talking about some interesting happenings and interesting stories out there on the internet. Here, this is in the red heifer category, the build another temple category, the blow up the Dome of the Rock category, what were those stupid books called? The Left Behind, the Thief in the Night, all that kind of stuff. And the headline is that the Messiah is here, and that the Messiah is here, hanging out with some Jewish rabbis, just ready to go ahead and make himself known. George Kelly just sent me a note, let us know he's listening. Well, thanks for that, George. Glad to have you out there. But I find this interesting on so many accounts. The fact that the Messiah, quote unquote, claims to be here, and the Messiah is hanging out now with Jewish rabbis, preparing himself. And we all know how fond Yeshua HaMashiach, or Yeshua the Messiah, if you look at him that way, we all know how fond he was with hanging out with the Jewish rabbis. Loved to hang out with those guys. Tip a few beers, drink some wine, share a few jokes. He loved hanging out with the rabbis. Of course he didn't. He had nothing but rancor. He had nothing but disgust. He had nothing but utter disregard for the rabbis. And the feeling was absolutely mutual. There's just a few exceptions, a few rabbis that he would hang out with from time to time. But to think that the Messiah is hanging out with these rabbis, just waiting for the Dome of the Rock to get blown up, or just waiting for the red heifer, or just waiting for enough priests to get sanctified, or whatever. It's ludicrous, folks. It's stupid. It borders on the absolutely absurd. If the Messiah were here, he certainly wouldn't be hanging out with the Jewish rabbis waiting for the red heifer. And to be frank with you, he wouldn't be hanging out with the Catholic priests. He wouldn't be hanging out with the Protestant pastors. He wouldn't be in Jerusalem hanging with the rabbis. He wouldn't be at the Vatican hanging out with the dudes there in dresses, the cardinals and the vicars and all those dudes. And he certainly wouldn't be hanging out with Benny Hinn and the TBN gang. So it's just ridiculous. And it's just another way to get your mind into a fear pattern, to get your mind back into that cognitive dissonance. Well, what's cognitive dissonance? That means when you hear something, or when you think of something, or when you start to talk about something, you go back into that matrix mindset that you've been indoctrinated with for 2,000 years. And I get asked this all the time, why don't you use the name Jesus? Well, I don't use the name Jesus, number one, because it was not the name of the man from Nazareth. There was no J in the English language until the 17th century. So his name was not Jesus. It's impossible that his name would be Jesus. His name was actually Yeshua. And we never, Jesus is just the English translation. Well, watch a little bit of a foreign language TV station. Univision. They've got, I've seen, different language, TV stations all throughout the country. Just watch one of them, watch the news. You'll hear them speak in their native language, and then they'll say George Bush, they'll say Barack Obama, they'll say Donald Trump. They'll say the name the way that it is, because you don't translate foreign names. Do you know Leonard the Conqueror, or do you know Leonardo da Vinci? Do you know Charles, or do you know Charlemagne? And it's not his name. You don't translate names, even if we were talking about that. And one of the big reasons I don't use it is because I'm convinced, and I know this is extreme, and it's very much unlike me to ever say anything extreme. I'm usually straight down the middle, very conservative, never upset anyone, never say anything that anyone could take offense to. I'm drinking something hot because my throat is a little bit tore up. Sorry if you hear that. I'm just an all around nice guy, but I believe that the name of Jesus is very likely is a magic word, or it has become a magic word, M-A-G-I-C-K. I think that it has a spellbinding effect. When you say the name Jesus, I believe it throws you automatically back into that cognitive dissonance. It throws you back into that matrix mindset. It throws you back into that Pauline, Roman Catholic, Roman Protestant mindset, and that whole guilt and fear-based matrix. And I'm trying to get you to think outside that box. And to say that name puts you back in that box. So that's 1, 2, 3 really good reasons why I don't use that name. It's a made-up name. It's not his name. The man that was from Nazareth, and I think it is a name that can actually bring us harm. And we talked about on the last show, his real name, as far as we can get, as close as we can get to it in pronunciation, is Yeshua. And you remember Yeshua. It's got that hue in it, that resonance, that frequency that you can chant that will cause every single unbalanced entity in your vicinity to either snap back into balance or to flee. So it's absolutely the best way. I got an email from a fellow, and this was a doctor, and I'm not going to talk too much about who he was or what he is, as I'm not sure what he wants to have out on international radio. But he was talking about some spiritual difficulties he was having. He said, "Can I get you on the phone? I can pay you." And I said, "Well, we may have to go that route, but try this." And I told him about the hue, and he'd been having, horrible difficulties. And sure enough, he used the hue, and he was able to receive great relief and great freedom. So, I don't make this stuff up, folks. I do have, we figured it out last time here, about 100,000 hours, maybe a little more, of study within the Bible, and it's 100,000 hours. At least 60 or 70,000 of it is objective. It's not trying to prove anything. It's not coming with my mind already made up. And I love these people. And every time I go on Coast, I get it. People write in and tell me, "Well, this is what that really means, and that's what that really means, and don't you really know?" And I get all of these guys that are saying, all these apologists that are supposed to be doing research. Let me just share something with you. Let me just give you a big, hairy idea that'll just blow your mind. If you already have your mind made up before you start studying, that ain't research, my friend. If you've already made your conclusion before you open the book, that's not research. And that's what the Christian apologists do. They already have their mind made up. Our doctrine's right. Our doctrine's true. It's the faith of the fathers. It's the doctrine of the elders. It's been passed down to us for 2,000 years. And they call themselves researching. But when you've already decided what your end conclusion is going to be, and then you go out and try to find as many little bitty pieces and scraps and splinters of things that you can call truth and try to plaster it into a plywood board that you're going to use as the platform of your faith, that is a lot of things: pathetic, silly, stupid, desperate, but it's not research. Research is when you say, "Hey, I wonder what this means." And you go out and you do the research without having an objective or a conclusion already reached. Research is what I do. Parabiblical research is research that includes the Bible, but it's parabiblical, also includes other sacred writings outside the Bible. I do research. I don't have any conclusions. I don't have any doctrinal foundations or doctrinal tenets to defend. I do real research. I'm the researcher. I'm the scholar. I'm the one that's actually with a noble mind seeking truth. These apologists who have already decided what they believe and are looking for things to back it up are not researchers. They are not scholars. They are not honest. They are whitewashed fences. They are temples that look good on the outside. They're actually graves that look good on the outside. And inside, they're full of dead men's bones. Yeshua talked about them. Shame on you, calling yourself apologists. Shame on you calling yourself scholars. Shame on you calling yourself researchers. And double shame on you for presenting yourself as people that are preaching truth to the masses. You say you're defending the faith. That you are. You are defending your faith, but you are not researchers. You are not objective. And in my mind, you need to quit calling yourself researchers because it's a misrepresentation. It is an absolute travesty. It's a travesty. It's a mockery. It's a sham. It's a mockery. A travesty, a mockery, a sham. If you're as old as I am, you remember that old commercial. It's a mockery. And that's what the apologists are. And you really should apologize, apologists, for calling yourselves researchers, for calling yourselves scholars, because you are not even close to being either of those things. Anti-demon burial techniques evidenced. I found this on the Coast to Coast website. They reference a story that shows some bizarre burial patterns. I believe it was over in Europe. And they believe from the research, at least the researchers that went over there, believe that the way that the graves were laid out, I believe, with sickles across the throats of the buried. You can check on unindoctrinate.com. And yeah, somebody said to me, those aren't hyperlinks. I actually have to copy and paste. Yes, you do, because I'm way too busy to make it super easy for you. And some people don't understand that, but I don't want to make it super easy for you. I don't want to make it super easy for you to get access to all the information that I present. I know that sounds completely unintuitive. I know that sounds back-ass words to use a phrase that I probably shouldn't. But I'm not trying to make it super easy on you because I'm not looking for people that want it super easy. I'm not trying to make it super easy on you because I'm not looking for people that want it super easy. I want people that are willing to do some work. I want people that are willing to do some study. I want people that are willing to roll up their metaphorical sleeves and get their hands and fingers dirty, get a little dirt under their nails, and begin to actually study and work and seek to find. So, little things like, could I make those things a hyperlink? I probably could. It would probably take me maybe 1 or 2 minutes more per article that I put up. But, I put up about 10 a day. That's 20 minutes that I could be spending doing something else. And all it takes you is, you left click, you hover over it, and it turns blue. You copy it, and you paste it into your browser. How difficult is it? But anti-demon burial techniques were evidenced by the way that these bodies were buried, and it shows that even back in those days, people were thinking about demons, which, of course, are really unbalanced, energetic beings, and they were trying to, obviously, come against or prevent some type of a zombie scenario or a resurrection type of a scenario in a negative sense. So just a very interesting little story, I thought. Here's another one. We're always talking about Islamic extremists. We're always talking about Muslim extremists. Unless, of course, you're anybody that's running for president not named Donald Trump, then you will never, ever say the words Muslim extremist. You would never, ever say the words Islamic extremist. There could be a ISIS member with a knife to Barack Obama's throat, and he wouldn't utter the words Islamic extremist. But there are Islamic extremists. There are Muslim extremists. I hate to tell you, there are Muslim extremists, 100%. There's also Christian extremists, and there's also Jewish extremists. Usually I was going to say the Christian extremists don't usually kill people, but that's not true. They're not currently usually killing people. But in this case, there's a Jewish extremist, and he wants to ban Christmas in the Holy Land. It makes me chuckle a little bit. He says, he wants to ban what he calls vampire Christians in the Holy Land. And he's on to something without really knowing that he's on to something. Of course, he's Jewish, so he's really telling on himself. But Christianity is very vampiric. Jeffrey, what are you talking about? Christianity, brother, it's all about the blood. Paul said, without the shedding of blood, there's no forgiveness of sin. They take you into your Roman Catholicism. You go in there, you drink blood, you eat flesh. That's kind of zombie-ish, but there's the vampiric quality is there. You go into the Protestant churches, and you drink symbolic blood and symbolic flesh. I mean, I guess at least the Catholics have the guts to go for the real thing. Transubstantiation, they teach that the blood, the wine is actually transformed into blood. They believe that the wafer, the host, I guess it's called, is actually transformed into the flesh of Jesus. So at least they've got the guts to go the whole route. And of course, the Protestants, we're just using symbols. They're more dainty. They're more limp-wristed, or they've got their pinkies up when they take their communion cup. They've got their pinkies extended when they take their little cracker. I mean, at least the Catholics, it's just bottoms up, boom, here it is. Yeah, it's blood, I'm drinking it. Yeah, it's flesh, I'm eating it. And I have some type of a grudging respect for just being down and dirty and being real with it, just being genuine. And even if it's a genuine farce and they're genuinely being deceived and they're genuinely drinking death and condemnation and eating death and condemnation into their bodies, but at least they don't have the limp wrists and the pinkies extended, so for what that's worth. But he wants to ban Christmas in the Holy Land. I can understand where he's coming from. Of course, it's stupid because the Holy Land is not exclusively Jewish. Population there, a great Islamic population there, and also a significant Christian population. And the bottom line is, folks, we're all on this planet together, and we've got to learn to live with one another. I mean, Islam, well, actually the Jews first started saying, you know what, we don't want to live with anybody else, so we'll just kill everybody else. They did a pretty impressive job going towards that goal. They went, waged a path of bloodshed, death, and destruction, on their way to what they called the Promised Land. Of course, there was already other people in that land. And it's like you pulling up at a stoplight and somebody walking up and saying, get out of your car, this is promised to me. And if you don't, they shoot you, they kill you. And while you're at it, they kill your family, they kill your dog and your cat if you happen to have them in the car. And then they run your plates and go to your house and kill all of your other family members. And that's what the Jewish march to the Promised Land consisted of. And that's what the Jewish cleansing of the Promised Land consisted of. I know we don't think about it in those terms because, we look at that as part of our heritage, and how history is. It's written by the winners, and, we don't really think too much about all the bloodshed, all the babies that were killed, all the women that were killed. Don't think too much about that, but that's exactly what happened. And then, the Christians decided they'd do the same thing. We'll kill everybody that we don't want to hang out with. Of course, the Muslims will kill everybody we don't want to hang out with, and they're still kind of in that mode. But it's all Abrahamic religion. It's all Abrahamic faith. And, it makes me sick when I see the Christians condemning the Muslims, and when I see the Jews condemning the Muslims, when they've done the same damn thing historically that the Muslims are doing. Maybe not in exactly the same terms, but you know what? Dead is dead at the end of the day. So extremism is extremism under any flag, under any banner, and killing people because they don't agree with your religion is the most heinous of crimes that a person can commit upon another, in my humble opinion. There's a man, and this was also on the Coast to Coast side, I think he was on the show recently, he claims to channel the Elohim. And, this always kind of bugs me. It always kind of worries me, because when you start to channel things, I don't know enough about channeling really, but I've got a real bad feeling about channeling, because what I have seen and what I do know is a lot of times people will channel a lot of things that aren't what those things tell them they are. It's like, I gotta, and I shouldn't say these things, but I guess I get enough emails and nobody knows who they are except for the NSA. A person saying, I'm being buffeted by these spirits, they do this, they do that, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. Asked one question, he said, oh, well, yeah, I always have these Archangel Michael readings and channelings. I just wanted to say, well, you big dummy. I'm being buffeted by unbalanced energetic entities that are bothering me. Well, are you doing anything to bring in? Oh, no. No, you're just channeling unbalanced entities. Come on, man. Wake up and realize you've got to understand. And of course, this person was of that great school of thought. Well, I always ask them if they're of the light, and they say yes. You know what that's like? It's like, ladies, a guy walking up to you in a bar, buying you a drink, telling you he's an astronaut, and you ask him, are you really an astronaut? It's like believing that he has to tell you the truth, yes or no. No, he doesn't. He's trying to score. He'll tell you whatever he thinks you'll believe. And so are the vast majority of these spiritual entities. This guy's not channeling the Archangel Michael any more than he's channeling the Nefertiti's gardener, who was named Michael. And I don't know if that's true. I'm just being ridiculous. But at best, you get bogus information. At worst, you get infested by unbalanced energies that are messing with you. And you know what? This guy wants to debate with me. Keep living with the problems. And when you get tired of it, give me a call. I'll still be here. And here's speaking about stupidity and speaking about ridiculousness. And leading up to that, I saw something on Facebook that said, God bless the Black Student Union. They bought this or that for this thing for a charity. And it's, the Black Student Union bought this. And I answered back and said, well, what did the White Student Union do? They blocked me. Why is there a Black Student Union? Why is there Black Entertainment Television? Why is there the Black Congressional Congress? Why is there the National Association for the Advancement of Color People? Why is it okay for black people to separate themselves? But could you imagine the White Student Congress? Could you imagine the National Association for the Advancement of White People? Could you imagine Miss White America? Could you imagine White Entertainment Television? No. And here, this is what it produces. Students signed petition to ban the racist song White Christmas from the radio. No word if they want to ban Blue Christmas, of course by Elvis Presley, but they want to ban White Christmas because it's racist. I don't know how you get black snow. I know how you get yellow snow, and don't ever eat yellow snow, but this is the level of ridiculousness. This is the level of ludicrosity that we come to when we start separating ourselves, black, white. The old Christian song, Jesus loves all the children of the world, red and yellow, black and white, put them together and watch them fight. That's what happens when we start separating ourselves by skin color. True spirituality and true brotherhood does not see skin color. It sees only the content of the character. I'm Jeffrey Daugherty, the Christian Whistleblower. We're going to be back to talk about the Born Supremacy right after this on the Christian... I'm sorry, I was just enjoying that catchy little bumper music that was provided by Rocky Stucci, the brains, the backbone, the brawn, the leader of IPBN FM. I'm Jeffrey Daugherty, the Christian Whistleblower. We're back with the Christian Whistleblower Show, and we're going to be talking tonight about the Bourne, B-O-R-N, not B-O-U-R-N-E, the Bourne conspiracy. And I think that's going to be very interesting to you. There's a lot of things that you may have never quite looked at in this type of from this type of a viewpoint before. But as I look out my window, I can almost still make out the silhouette of my 25-foot RV. It's a Beaver. Yeah, that's the manufacturer, Beaver Monterey. So I'm going to be riding the Beaver full time, 24/7, as we get out on the Unindoctrinate Yourself tour. And we're trying to get 2 stops every month with seminars and with visits to spiritual centers, churches, things of that nature. And I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of the months filled up with 2 events. So that means that we obviously do have some space available. If you want to have me come to your conference, don't worry about cost and things like that. Call me. We can most likely work something out if it's a mutually beneficial situation. And if you have a spiritual group, if you have a congregation or a spiritual center, feel free to contact me with that as well. We have obviously some room. We would like to get that filled up in the next 60 days to the 2 events per month. But we're going to be going and doing the talks, not dissimilar to what we're talking about here, on the radio, talking about the great questions, asking the great questions that no one else will, and actually looking and doing and talking and doing this coast to coast, border to border. I have basically sold everything I have. I'm sitting on a squeaky chair on a beat up desk that I got from Walmart that should have been out on the side of the street a few months ago, but I'm trying to get it to hold on till we get on the road in the next 4 to 6 weeks. So it's full time. Rooney, the Wonder Cat, and I in the RV, rolling down the road, towing on a nice little trailer the motorcycle that I've purchased. So, we go to somewhere, we stop, we get all hooked up. I don't have to move the whole house to go get a quart of creamer for my coffee. So the Unindoctrinate Yourself tour, it's kicking off within the next month to 6 weeks, unless we get somebody that wants us to come out earlier. We're certainly welcome or willing to do that. And then we're also going to be kicking off what we call the Paranormal Trip. And what we're going to do is make a web series, and we're going to go to both the supernatural, unexplained, and even paranormal sites along, obviously, our journey from conference to conference. The first place, we're going to hook up with Cliff Desmond, who does the voice on my intros and my extros, my announcements here. And we're going to be going down and doing a show about the Bermuda Triangle. I'm a diver. I'm actually going to get into the Bermuda Triangle, and we may do some diving. It's surprisingly shallow throughout much of the Devil's Triangle, and we may go down, and I haven't really seen a lot of people do underwater investigation there, so we'll be doing some diving there for the Bermuda Triangle, the Devil's Triangle, whichever way you like to talk about it. We're going to be going to the Coral Castle, and I know one of the big shows supposedly did an expose that answered all the questions. I don't quite buy that. I think that there's more to the Coral Castle. I think there's some things that have not been done as far as research and investigation that can be done down at the Coral Castle. Looking at St. Augustine, the oldest city in North America. Some very, very positive things. I don't want to give out a lot of ideas because I can just make it easy for other people to go ahead and do this before I can do it. But all the places that you've thought, man, I really wish I could go there and see that. That'd be really cool. I always wish I could go there and be a part of that. That'd be really awesome. Well, guess what? We're going to go there for you. We're going to view it. I just got my GoPro. I'm learning how to use it, and we'll get everything all set up and dialed in, learning how to do the video editing. You'll have to be a little patient with me. It's not going to be, History Channel quality right off the bat, but we are going to be doing the paranormal trip, giving you the ability to see these places and do these things as if you were there right beside me. That's what it's all about, the Unindoctrinate Yourself tour, the paranormal trip. And we're also booking even now appointments for our paranormal cleansing. You know, people that are having trouble with entities, both either tormenting themselves or tormenting their dwellings or tormenting other things, even animals. We're going to be able to go and meet with those people. Most of the time we can take care of that, you know, virtually over the phone or in other manners. But sometimes you do have to go out there and get your hands dirty. And when I go and speak at the Paradigm Symposium in Minneapolis, Minnesota in May, I hope to be able to go out and learn from the master, Rocky Stucci himself, and a veteran of much and many paranormal type experiences and investigations. I'll be tagging along from him and learning and understanding and being able to become more proficient in doing what we do. And, you know, that's the thing, man. If you think that you've got it, if you think you know it all, man, you don't know anything at all. And, you know, Scotty Roberts has a saying, I hate to quote it, and it's earmuff time on the air. I don't, it's a little crude, but it makes just so much sense. The more shit I learn, the more I learn I don't know shit. Or the more shit I know, the more I realize I don't know shit. And, you know, I'm trying to think of a way that's more acceptable to say that, but it's just true. And anybody that does know some stuff, you can unearmuffs. Anybody that does know some stuff, anybody that is learning, that's the real true learning. True enlightenment is extremely humbling. When you find these people that, you know, they have to be the smartest guy in the room, they have to be the smartest girl in the room, and you can tell they're just trying to be famous. You know, they don't really have a passion so much for the actual work. You can tell who it is. You can smell it a mile away. That's people that probably aren't as smart as they want you to think they are. And you know, this is just me talking to you. We're friends here. The people that are truly advanced, the people that are truly smart, the people that are truly blazing new trails and reaching new levels, you know, they're the people that don't have to tell you how smart they are. They don't have to tell you how wise they are. They don't have to be the smartest person in the room all the time. And many times you'll find them, you know, being rather quiet unless they're being directly addressed. So, you know, just a little insight there, just a little help. And it's all about learning. And when you learn how much you really need to learn. And, you know, that's kind of it for that. But I just wanted to bring that out there, and I wanted to make those statements, and I wanted you to kind of get that idea in your head. And it's very much like what I talked about. Pretty much, it was in the first hour of the Coast to Coast interview. You know, people on the Coast to Coast, people in the Coast to Coast audience, and people in this audience, we understand that coming to the end of 2015, it's been another year where we've learned even more how much the government is lying to us. It's been another year where we've learned even more about how much the government is spying on us. It's been a year where we've learned even more about how the government is stealing from us and manipulating our money, manipulating our economy. We've learned even more that our government may actually be trying to destroy the United States of America as we have known it. Of course, we learned that our government is trying every day more and more to remove the very ability that we have to protect ourselves. And people, don't let anyone tell you any different. The Second Amendment was not created so that you could hunt squirrels. The Second Amendment was created specifically so that there would be a well-armed populace and that the government would always be fearful of trying to become dictatorial or autocratic. The government should always fear rebellion from the populace. Remember, it was Thomas Jefferson, the third president of the United States, that said, I believe that a little rebellion now and again, a little revolution, a little rebellion every now and then is a good thing. Now, so we universally, almost in this audience, don't trust the government. We universally in this audience think that the government should be more open. We ubiquitously or universally in this audience think that the Federal Reserve should be audited. And yet at the same time, And I talked about this with the organization MUFON, the Mutual UFO Network, allegedly dedicated to investigating all manners of UFO, imagery and experience. And yet, when there's obviously, as I have recently disclosed, I think for the first time to the world in the New Testament, there is obvious UFO, ET, and alien imagery woven into the New Testament. And yet MUFON, who's supposed to be the leading authority and the cutting edge of research, says, oh, no. We don't want to deal with that because it has religious overtones. Well, so what? It is a new discovery about UFO, ET, and alien imagery, and it can be handled without bringing violence or direct disdain upon anybody's religion, but it has to be addressed, and not to do so and refuse to do so under politically correct excuse is both cowardly and it's unscholarly, and shame on MUFON for refusing to take a look at that kind of stuff. But that's very typical of this idea within the paranormal, within the Patriot. I hate that name, but within people that believe in that the government is not our friends right now. They'll believe all of that, but when it comes to the Bible, the brakes go on. Don't you dare question the New Testament. Don't you dare talk about the New Testament. But my friends, let me share a little bit of truth with you. You've heard the word censor. None of us like censorship, do we? We hate censorship. Censorship is our enemy. Censorship is the enemy, especially of those of us that are on this station trying to disseminate truth, and those of you that are listening to this station trying to assimilate truth. The word censor comes from the Latin, and in the Roman Empire, every province, and depending upon the size of the province, they had multiple ones of these. It was an office, a governmental office, and there was an official called a censor. And what that censor did was monitor all of the writings and communications from subject peoples, and he would monitor all of their writings for anything that was speaking out against Rome, anything that was speaking out against Caesar, anything that was speaking out against the government, anything that was speaking out, against the local provincial government, or speaking out against even Caesar himself. It was a censor was there to monitor for any type of teaching that even faintly smelled of insurrection, or even faintly smelled of rebellion. And folks, the simple matter of fact, unavoidable, undeniable, stick your head in the sand like an ostrich till your ears fill with sand, and it's not going to make it any less true. Do the old la 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 la. Doesn't make it any less true, just makes you ever more stupid. The New Testament as we know it was read, vetted, edited, and allowed to be published by Roman censors. The New Testament was read, edited, vetted, and allowed to be published by Roman censors. Nothing got published in the New Testament that the Roman censors didn't read and okay. Now, a lot of it, there's some linguistic legerdemain in there by the great writers of the New Testament to slip things in that if they had been plainly stated, the censors would not have allowed them to be. But nevertheless, everything that was written in the New Testament was okayed by the Roman Empire. Guess what, folks? The Roman Empire was the government. More than that, the Roman Empire was a one-world government. They're trying to build the new world order. Honey, Rome was the old world order. It was a worldwide one government dictatorship, and they approved your New Testament. Oh, but Jeff, don't question the New Testament. Don't read the New Testament with a scholarly view. Don't read the New Testament with an investigative eye. don't read the New Testament and wonder if the censors might have slipped some stuff in. We can't do that, because when it comes to the life, the liberty, the pursuit of happiness, we don't trust the damn government. But when it comes to our spiritual eternity, we trust the government. We love the government. Come here, government. I love you, government. Tell me more about God, government. You want to take away my guns, but tell me more about my God. Bend over, government. Let me plant my lips on your sacred butt. That's so stupid. You know the government lies. You know the government steals. You know the government cheats. The government approved the New Testament you read, and guess what? They lied to you in it. They stole from you in it. They cheated you in it. And that's only half the story, because guess what? A few centuries later, what happened? Well, it wasn't enough that your New Testament as you have it today was vetted, edited, approved, and published by one world government. No, my friends, it was done by two. At least two. Well, who was the second one? You ever heard of a guy named King James? Do you realize what his name wasn't? His first name wasn't King and his last name wasn't James. We're not talking about LeBron James. We're talking about King James. Guess what king means? King means he was in charge of the government. And what King James did was he picked his own group of dudes to edit the Bible. He picked his own group of dudes to decide what they would keep in, what they would throw out. And then he gave the whole thing to Sir Francis Bacon. And Sir Francis Bacon kept it for like a year at his own house, lock and key. And then King James not only edited it, King James not only vetted it, King James not only took stuff out and put stuff in, but King James published it under his own authority, the New Testament that you won't let me look at with a scholarly eye, and you are too damn afraid to do it yourself and mostly too lazy, was published by the government. Not just the government, but a one world government by the British Empire, which was the old world order again. Can you imagine? The King James Version of the Bible is exactly like if today we were to have the Barack Hussein Obama version of the Bible, the BHOV. Or if you don't like that, it's exactly like having the George W. Bush version. George W. Bush version. The GWBV. It's exactly the same. What? You wouldn't trust the Barack Obama version of the Bible? You would rebel against that? You would question that? You would begin to study that and pick that apart? Why? It was all right for King James to do it, but it's not okay for Barack Obama to do it. And you Republicans, you mean you wouldn't accept the George W. Bush version? You wouldn't accept the George W. Bush version? You'd question it? You'd want to audit it? Why? You got no problem with the King James version. Hello? Is this thing on? Knock, knock, knock. You're right. It's time to call for openness in the government. You're right. It's time to audit the Federal Reserve. And it's also time to call for openness in the New Testament. And it's also time to audit the New Testament. You don't have the guts to do it, so I'm doing it. Nobody else has the guts to do it, so Jeff Daugherty with nothing to lose and nobody to please except for the gods himself, I'm doing it. And I don't care if you like it or not, but now you know that it needs to be done. And I'm the only guy doing it, and I could sure use some help. And think about this. Thomas Jefferson, we mentioned him earlier. He was the third president of the United States. But before that, he wrote this little document some of you might have heard of. It was called the Declaration of Independence. If you remember, when in the course of common events it becomes necessary that one people should separate themselves from the governance of another. Do you remember, does we the people of the United States of America, does that ring a bell to you? Life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, does that ring a bell to you? That was Thomas Jefferson. He wrote single-handedly the Declaration of Independence in 1776. He also had a great part in writing of the Bill of Rights. He had a great part in writing the Constitution. And he was in that mindset, in that remarkable group of men that separated themselves from the old world order and said, no, we're not going to be told who to worship, how to worship, where to worship. We're not going to pay your taxes. We're not going to quarter your soldiers. We're not going to allow you to dominate our land. We're not going to do it. Of course, they thought they were against taxation without representation. And brothers and sisters, we know it ain't so great with representation either. But the point was, Jefferson wrote the Declaration of Independence, helped write the Bill of Rights, helped write the Constitution. Then just a few years later, within 20, 30 years, he also began work on, guess what? His own version of the New Testament. Don't you see the connection there? He was writing a declaration of political and social independence of men, women, boys, and girls that had the power to follow the dictates of their own conscience, that had the power to follow the dictates of their own mind, so long as they allowed for the freedom of other people to do the very same things. And then he made the connection, and he followed up and said, you know what? A people that have a declaration of political independence, a people that have a declaration of social independence are still slaves until they have a declaration of spiritual independence. My friends, I say to you today, the Declaration of Independence is no good to you. I say to you today, the Bill of Rights is no good to you. I say to you today, the Constitution is no good to you. Your political freedom is worthless. Your social freedom is worthless if you don't have your spiritual freedom. And how stupid do we have to be to question the government and demand that they prove to us that they're looking out for our political our political welfare, to demand that they prove that they're looking out for our social welfare, but accept their word for it on our spiritual welfare. How stupid are we? I'm done being stupid. I'm done being stupid. It's time to audit the New Testament. It's time to question the King James Version just as it were the George W. Bush version, or just as it were the Barack Obama version, or God forbid, the Hillary Rodham Clinton version. Ah! Could you imagine? Folks, this is what you call real. This is what you call reality. This is what you call a slap in the face, 2x4 breaking through a pane of glass, popping you right between the eyes. That's just what I do. But tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong. You can't, because you know it's true. You know it's right. And you know where you hear this kind of stuff. And guess what? We are just getting started. Do you see what this is all about? Yes, I cherish our political freedoms. Yes, I cherish our social freedoms. But guess what? Without spiritual and religious freedom, none of it matters at all. And do you really want to fight and battle and persevere for freedoms that will rule and affect you in this one lifetime, but yet you want to accept the rat bastard government word for your spirituality, which is going to be an eternity If that's okay for you, God help you, because I can't. It's time to audit the New Testament. And we're going to come back and start doing just that again with the Born Supremacy. I'm Jeffrey Daugherty, the Christian Whistleblower. We'll be right back after.